vigilant are you on the road? For many of us who've experienced a hijacking, we remain ever cautious. And actually, we're right to be that way. The latest crime stats showed in the first 3 months of this year, over 5,400 vehicles were hijacked. And that's at least one every half an hour. Let's take a deeper look at this crime and the syndicates that operate in hijackings with Martin Ewi, a senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. Martin, thank you so much for joining us. Tell me something, are these vehicle hijacking syndicates on the rise?
Thank you very much. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, I think the issue of vehicle theft is a very serious problem. Not just for South Africa, but the whole of Southern Africa, where we see a rise. The recent police records show a little drop in the data, but what we are experiencing is that this is an industry that is growing every single day.
Yeah, you describe it as an industry because, I mean, it's highly organized. Different people do different things. Talk to me about the basic modus operandi of a car or a vehicle hijacking syndicate. How do they operate?
Well, there are many syndicates. You also have opportunists. So this is not always big organized crime syndicates. You also have very small gangs that can put themselves together to hijack or even steal a car. But the big thing is to be able to find the market. So when a car is stolen, it is not just stolen for somebody to use. It is stolen for the purpose of selling to make profit out of that. Now, there are various modus operandi that are being used. But I think the most common ones include fraud. Insurance fraud, where sometimes a car is not stolen at all, but it is reported as stolen. And I think that's a growing crime in South Africa, where, you know, increasingly people want to claim insurance for their vehicles, report them as stolen, and these vehicles are sometimes later discovered or sometimes are never discovered because they are sent abroad. Then you also have the issue of jamming, where you're trying to park your car, or you've actually parked your car. You're trying to lock your car, especially the automatic locks. They jam the system, and then you think that you've locked your car, but that car is not actually locked. The moment you step away, the thieves, they come in and take your car away, or sometimes steal from them if they believe that there are valuables in the car. Then you also have the common hijacking, where you are met at a gunpoint, whether on the road or you are just slowing down, and someone comes up to you with a gun and asks you to leave the car. You also have that. Then you have the roadblocks, where sometimes they actually block the road, and you are approaching that blockade, thinking that it might be the police or it might be some law enforcement officer, but they are actually criminals. And then they ask you to abandon your car. So you have so many different ways in which cars are stolen. But the one which is also concerning is how these cars are taken from South Africa to countries abroad, especially the neighboring countries like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia, and so on and so forth. Now, how these cars are taken, the modus operandi are so complex that in one case, someone described to us that they use donkeys to cross the river at Komati Port borders. So you find that these guys are very, very innovative when it comes to the modus operandi in which cars are stolen in South Africa.
One thing we've been told very often over the years by hijacking experts is, look, be assured they don't want you, they want the car. Is that still the case? I'm thinking in terms of the sophisticated security technology surrounding our cars. Maybe they need to take you with them. Does that happen more and more?
It does indeed. It does in the majority of the cases, but we also seen cases where even when the owner of the car did not resist, that he's sometimes wounded or even killed because the criminals believe that he's going to report it later on, or something is going to happen that might jeopardize their trade. So this is why increasingly we also see that people who didn't resist at all to the criminals still get injured or sometimes are even killed. So yeah, it's not always the tradition that if you don't resist, your car will go and you'll be safe. Not always the case. They are different. So it depends actually on the syndicate.
I see. And speaking of the syndicates, I mean, how sophisticated are they? We hear these stories that, they're actually, a syndicate will be told, well, I wanted BMW X5 and I want it in this color and that. And the hijackers will literally go out and target a very specific make, model and color. Is that really true?
Of course, it is. Sometimes the syndicate, you are talking of the demand, the kingpins who actually make the demand for this kind of cars. And what we are seeing increasingly is that these are scrupulous government officials in countries abroad where, they want to drive specific big SUVs. We've seen Land Cruisers being very popular, Fortune, so most of these very big SUV vehicles that are being targeted. So they know that these government officials, they love this kind of cars for their status, or sometimes you have also unscrupulous business people who want to drive these very big cars, and then they make this specific demand. Even if they didn't make the demand, the criminals, they know that this is a fast market, that when you bring an SUV that costs about $50,000 and give to someone for $8,000, the cash is very quick. It will come by very, very quickly. So they need those kind of deals. And sometimes it's a lot easier to sell that SUV for $8,000 than to sell a Polo for even $2,000. So you can see that it's most often the demand for these specific vehicles, which are mostly, as we see increasingly, that they are SUVs, very big cars. But what we also see increasingly for especially those cars that are stolen, not always to sell the car as a whole, but sometimes to dismantle the car and then sell in part, sell part of that car to people who are in need for it. That most often these are smaller cars, these are very old cars, which are still useful, but because of the specific demand for the part of these cars are also targeted, not because they want to drive them like that, but because they want to use the part. And I think this is the one that is extremely difficult for law enforcement to be able to dictate, because the cars are not driven, they are dismantled immediately, and the parts separated from the car.
Yeah, and as you said, sometimes taken over a border on the back of a donkey. Absolutely fascinating. And thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, Martin Ewi, a senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies.